All right, so today we're hosting an important conversation about community safety, awareness, and personal responsibility. Joining us is my good friend Henrik. He's a police officer with over 25 years of experience in law enforcement, security, self defense, as well as a military veteran. And thank you so much, Henrik, for being here. Thank you for your service, and feel free to express anything about yourself.
It's truly an honor to have you here.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, born and raised in Sweden. That's where I served in the Marine Corps in '96, so now 30 years ago.
Aw.
I just aged myself. And from there, I trained with an organization called the IBA, which stands for International Bodyguard Association. I first did my initial training in Stockholm, and I moved to London, England. And they use the same training platform as the British SAS, which is stands for Special Air Service, which I wasn't part of that unit, but they use the same anti-terrorism training platform, and which, in my opinion, is one of the best in the world. And then when I came to the U.S., I got my college degree, and then I got involved in personal protection, and I've done high threat personal protection for roughly about 20 years or so. And I worked very closely with the Jewish Federation of Los Angeles, which, as you know, like in certain media and so forth, that is a very high threat. So I took a lot of pleasure working with that. And most of my career has been dealt with the proactive aspects, meaning like, what do you do before something happens?
Wow.
Wonderful.
So, and then after I got done, I left that career in about 2022, and then actually went into law enforcement. And as I said, I'm now a police officer with Florida State. I'm a Florida State trooper. Yeah, it's kind of like a kind of new career.
Yeah, that's
Part,
awesome.
That is truly
So-
amazing.
A little bit about myself.
Oh wow.
He's kind of a big deal.
Truly.
Humble.
Very
Awesome.
humble.
Nice. Well, we have some questions which I think will be beneficial for the city of Clearwater members and anybody who has a life,
Yeah.
that you will help us to get more educated on and help them with, right?
That's
So
right.
the first question is for those, well, actually, you kind of answered this one already, but for those who don't know you, tell us about, what led you into law enforcement, security, and self-defense.
Well, that's a great question because uh, the reason why I got into security is because even as a child, you witness things being done to people that I simply wasn't okay with. There has to be somebody that actually steps on the line and says, "Not on my watch." And that was one of the things I got introduced in the military, because when you get into the military in Sweden, which was mandatory at the time that when I did it, I didn't really want to do the military. I was 18 years old and, completely green and everything, and, think that I knew everything there was to know. Got humbled very quickly,
Wow.
right? First off, I got trained to a point where I realized, what am I physically capable of doing? And the threshold of what I was capable of doing was pushed. And that has actually been incorporated in the rest of my career, because I go, okay, good. What's my next threshold? Like, how far can I push myself in my training, in my capabilities? But one of the things was camaraderie and team. You learn that a lot in the military, which I think is very beneficial. But they are the ones that are standing on the line to prevent the harm to come to the citizen of that country.
Right.
So I did the same thing with security, because I go like, well, wait a minute. If there are these threats, somebody has to have to attempt to prevent that from happening, and
Right.
that appealed to me, because I've spent nearly 30 years in this career, and I train almost every month still. I just turned 50, so I still train to this day. Most people don't do that. Like, they don't have the skills or the experience to react to something when something goes wrong or threats comes in.
Right.
And a lot of, like, I worked with a lot of celebrities in the corporate and of course in the religious sector, where the threats are much higher, especially within the Jewish community. And so I always felt a great pride of going, look, like, I'm gonna do what I can do to make sure that this group of people, this element of our society, actually remains safe. So that's one of the reasons that led me to, and I take great satisfaction in doing that. And that's also what led me into law enforcement, later in my life, I was in my 40s when I got involved with law enforcement, was the same thing. Is like, I believe a society is only as strong as we are when we're following laws, when we have law and order.
Right.
That's right.
If we have law and order, that has to be the first thing.
Right.
So my law enforcement career, as I'm a little bit older, I'm more of a support to full-time officers and so forth, right? But that aspect is really important because I'm enabling full-time officers and other police officers actually to do their job and also protect them, their interests, but also protect the society and get rid of as much crime from the streets as we possibly can. So that's, yeah. So I take great satisfaction in that aspect, that somebody has to sort of guard the gates, and might as well be me.
That's awesome.
That is
and
truly
you also
great.
just recently got your badge.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did. I got
That's-
sworn in.
Congratulations.
You have it with you? Oh, can I see it? Can I touch it? Okay. Wow. Oh, this is very impressive.
Wow, yeah.
This is very impressive.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much for bringing your badge.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for just having this passion that, you know, not a lot of people have. And you've been so dedicated and you've traveled so much. You've been in so many areas. And honestly, me being a citizen of the city of Clearwater and having a business here, having a home here, I just feel so grateful to have someone like you in this space, bringing this type of knowledge, helping whoever you can with this information. So thank you so much for being here. It's truly an honor.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you really have the best interests of the people of the community at heart, you know, and like police officers, military veterans, you're people too. You know, you're putting yourself, your family at risk by defending the people that can't defend themselves. And that means a lot, like truthfully.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you again.
You're very welcome.
We're so thankful.
So the next question is, after 25 years of experience, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about personal safety?
That it can happen to you. Because here's the thing. I mean, I do a lot of training when it comes to situational awareness. That's kind of like what I specialize in.
Yeah.
Because if you look at some of our veterans in the U.S. military, when they come out of the military, they come out with a great set of skills, right? When it even comes to force on force, or it becomes situational awareness. But the average day citizen, as I mentioned earlier, don't really have that training in the background, right? They don't have that mindset. But I hate to use the word combat mindset, but that's referred to sort of in the military. And so everyday people don't have that. And a lot of people unfortunately think that because it's never happened to me, it's never going to happen, right? The risks are fairly small, right? Especially if we refer to crimes that just occurred in Clearwater, which I suspect you're going to ask me questions about that. But at the same time, when I teach, because I'm also a firearms instructor and been a firearms instructor for many years.
Wow, you do it all.
I try.
He's also a father and a husband.
I am.
Beautiful children.
Two kids. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
You have 2 kids, which is also another motivation.
Yeah.
You know, because it's, if you look at, even if you look at the elderly population, right? Men and women who are in their 70s or in the 80s, like, they might not have the physical capability to actually defend themselves.
Right.
And you can't expect somebody of that certain age, or a child under the age of 10, to actually have the physical capability to defend themselves. So what do they need to have in order to be prepared for potential, like, break-ins? What are the steps you can take? And that's something I do also with my own company when it comes to security and emergency preparedness, right? Not just towards crime, but there's 3 major aspects that can happen to everyday citizens. It is medical, there's fire, and there's crime, right? Those three elements, like, people don't think with them because they go, oh, my house has never been on fire.
Right.
Well, there's a fire that occurs in the United States every 87 seconds.
Yeah.
So
every 80 seconds.
87 seconds, a fire breaks out.
Well, to some degree, it may be a small or a large one.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. It does not mean, you know, a complete failure of the entire property every 87 seconds.
Right.
But so there's a lot of aspects. So what people have a tendency to think, as I said earlier, is that they don't think it ever can happen because it hasn't happened yet. But when I do teach, especially also when I teach firearm, concealed carry, and people who want to arm themselves in public, I also don't want to teach fear. like, I don't want to say like, well, you should be really careful because this happened over here, so this can happen to you.
That's so important
Right.
to not
Yes.
do it with fear. I
Right.
love that way of
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
Elaborate more on that.
Yeah. So, yeah, because if you have somebody in fear, they go, like, oh my God, like this person got carjacked or this person their house got broken into.
Yeah, I can see that.
It that's why I also tell people, it's like, don't pay attention too much to news and social media,
Yeah.
because if you look at what news and media are doing, they're trying to create an effect,
Right.
right? So that in kind of comes with a certain level of fear, and we go like, oh my God, this happened here in Clearwater. I mean, this can happen to me.
Right.
Sure, statistically it can, but you can also look at it from more of a proactive aspect. It's like, what can I do to minimize myself being a target,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because criminals, however little they do scout and surveillance their targets,
Mm.
right? Sometimes there are random acts of crime. I'm not going to take that away, but like if you look at somebody breaking into a house, they're most likely are going to actually surveillance that house prior to the break-in,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you can take steps of minimizing your house or your individual being a target, they're going to pick somebody else,
Right.
Yes.
right? So, for instance, I'm not going to go too much deep into this, but there's been child predators who have been asked, like, how do they pick their targets?
Mm-hmm.
They look at the father,
Right. Yeah.
right? So if there's a strong family nucleus, then the child predator will move on, right?
Right.
So there's same things you can do to your home. Like, look, if somebody drives past your home and they see that your door's open or your windows are open, they might come back, and then that's how they target it. Or if you leave expensive items out in plain view, that could attract them, because if they see one expensive object, they can actually think that you have more.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you keep them, for instance, like, one of the things is like expensive lawn mowers and stuff like that, not in plain view, right? So there's a lot of stuff you can do. And the same thing goes for not being a victim for robbery out in the street or anything like that.
Right.
Don't look like you don't belong.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, funny that you mentioned that. Just made me remember that
Yeah.
our mother's from the Dominican Republic,
Mhm.
and she was a public figure. And we were American. We're born in the United States, but we did live there. And we actually we would always buy clothing at the local stores. We didn't have Nike and no American brands at all, no jewelry, and even our Spanish is not the usual Dominican Spanish. We speak Spanish,
Mhm.
so even then, like, it was just a method of protection, to not attract attention, because in different places certain things could happen, and she had to uphold a certain amount of security for her children. So that makes total sense what you're saying. And I never thought about the lawnmower.
This escalated quite a bit, especially in California with all the lockdowns, which is that you had criminals following people home based on the vehicles they were driving and the things they were wearing, and then they would do home invasion.
Right.
They would come with force. And so you had people with Rolex watches or expensive jewelry and expensive clothing, and a criminal sees that, they're gonna go like, okay, this person drives a really nice car, whether that be a Bentley or BMW, whatever it may be, and then wears a Rolex watch. That's my target. And
Yeah.
then they follow them home and do home invasion
Yeah.
and robbery.
It
So
actually makes me think of, this is kind of corny, but it makes me think of the Home Alone movie. Like, they were surveilling Kevin, right? Kevin was his name.
yeah,
Um, the actor in the movie, like they were
Yeah.
surveilling the neighborhood, the home, the kid, and it makes me think about that. Like they are looking for their target.
Mhm.
So that's a good example.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and
Yeah.
also if they surveillance home, this is again hypothetical, but
Mhm.
but if you have a 10-year-old son and he's very capable and he can take care of himself, but you leave him home a lot alone, 10-year-old son or 10-year-old boy is not that big of an obstacle for a criminal,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's burglaries have declined quite a bit in the past. Since 2012, they've declined quite a bit.
Right.
Unfortunately, home invasion statistics have gone up.
Ah.
Oh.
So, so Every fourth, again, this is statistics, and I say this in some of the videos and some of the interviews I've done before and seminars that I hold. You can get lost in the sea of statistics because it doesn't paint always a very accurate picture. But according to statistical data, every fourth burglary can be classified as a home invasion because the occupant is at home,
Mm.
right? It doesn't always involve violence, but if you're home, it's technically a home invasion, right?
Wow.
And most burglaries happens during the day, right, when occupants are at home.
So there's home invasions and burglary, but they're two distinct things.
Well, the two distinct things, because if you're home, then now all of a sudden it becomes sort of a threat towards your personal safety as opposed to just a material possession or stealing something. If you're standing in the way of them trying to steal your lawnmower, now all of a sudden that can be classified as a home invasion if any type of force is involved.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be verbal, right? It doesn't have to be that they hold a knife or a gun to your head. It could be that verbal threat that now that you're in fear of your life or physical harm, bodily harm.
Right. Of
That-
course, if
that-
there's any stranger coming into your
Right.
home, at that point you feel a threat. You know, if it happens when you're not there, you're not experiencing it live.
That could be classified as a home invasion, and unfortunately, that has increased
Mhm.
over the past some 15 years or so.
Wow.
Wow, this is good information to know. I had
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah,
I didn't
and
even know the difference.
yeah, I mean, there's I don't know the Florida statutes on it, but they're, you know, I can look them up on the phone and whatever. But
Yeah.
there are differences, especially like if somebody breaks in, that's breaking and entering, right?
Mhm.
But if you're home, that's a robbery, right?
Right.
That's a classification. Is also a distinction between the different degrees of felonies, right? So
Right.
it's the penalties of the crime.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the sort of the home invasions, the criminals are getting bolder and bolder and bolder.
Mm-hmm.
And when you also see, again, and not to get political or anything like that, but when you're seeing criminals being released for certain crimes they should actually be imprisoned for, their motivation goes up. The risk for them to get away with something of a sort of quote unquote lesser crime, it just makes them emboldens like the criminals to commit more crime.
Wow.
Right. And if you're home, and you're meeting force with force, now you're counting on the fact that you can actually overcome that threat. But if you're not trained or qualified, the criminal can still see that as a threat, physical threat towards them, which then prompts them to defend themselves, right?
I see.
So you know, here in Florida, we are not only we are a stand your ground state,
Yeah.
Thank
which means
goodness.
So there is a little bit of a caveat to that, though, because what stand your ground basically means is that if you're presented with a threat, you have no legal obligation to retreat. Like you can stand your ground if you feel like there's a threat towards your like great bodily harm or potential death, right? Which is included in the castle doctrine, which means the castle is your home. You have a right to protect it. So if somebody breaks the threshold of your home, you have a right to use lethal force, whether they are armed or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the law says. I don't necessarily recommend people who own firearms in their homes and so forth to go Rambo as soon as they see somebody in their house.
Yeah.
Because we live in a litigious society, right? You might be freed in criminal law, but that does not protect you from civil law,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Oh, wow. This is very important to know.
Right. So again, it's like, again, as a firearms instructor, not to dwell too much on firearms, but Florida is also a constitutional carry, which means that you can actually buy a firearm, carry it concealed in public without any kind of permit. And I highly, highly do not recommend doing that. Because if you come into a situation where you have to use your firearm in a situation that you are within your right to do so, let's say there was somebody who was armed, like you are completely within your right. If you don't have any training or any certification, once it gets to the prosecutor, they basically will ask you, what kind of training and background do you have to where you could have potentially prevented this? And they go, oh, I have no training, constitutional carry. Oh, so you have no training and no background. Okay, so don't you think that maybe if you had that training, this could have been avoided?
Right.
You see the argument here, even how stupid that argument is, it is an argument in a litigious society that people really have to think about.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and to bring back to this force on force, like my son has asked me this a couple of times. He actually asked me this probably last year or something like that. He said, "What would you do if you saw somebody pointing a gun at somebody at a gas station?" And I said, "I would call 911." Like you wouldn't intervene? It's like, no, because I don't know who's who.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who's a good guy. I don't know who's a bad guy.
Yeah.
So I come in there with a drawn pistol.
Right.
The guy with the pistol is not going to see me as a threat.
Right.
He might be an off-duty police officer.
That's so true. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
a really good point.
Right.
You don't know who's wearing the white hat or the black hat.
Yeah.
Correct. And you don't do
and
that.
it could
even
put you at risk
right.
if you involve
Now-
yourself untrained.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that I'm a sworn-in police officer, of course I have my badge. But if I'm civilian dressed like I am right now, yes, I can hang this badge around my neck and identify myself, police officer. But if that's a bad guy, now all of a sudden I made myself the biggest threat there.
Right. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So very important. Get trained.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
get certified. Know what you're doing. Like
Right.
actually know what you're doing.
Well, be responsible about your actions. You know,
Right.
don't
Right.
just go willy nilly. You know, Rambo, like you say. You know, be responsible. Get training. Get
Right.
proper
Yeah.
education.
Yeah.
Because if you see, if let's say the same situation, but now you see a police officer with his drawn pistol towards somebody in uniform, right? It's very clear who's the good guy, who's the bad
Right.
guy. Hopefully, you know.
yeah.
But then because it's identifying factors.
Yeah.
So now as a civilian, you know, you can. I mean, I'm kind of obligated to offer my assistance in that kind of position if I deem it safe.
Mhm. Yeah.
But as a civilian, you can now distinguish between that. But the other part of it is as soon as I present any form of weapon, I've now created a lethal situation, right? So
Right.
that's why, for instance, security guards at banks are specifically told not to draw their weapons if there's a bank robbery,
Mm.
even if the bank robber is armed. Because the bank robber is again, there's probably exceptions to this, but the bank robber is there to get money, not take lives. You draw your pistol, you've now created a situation where the bank robber might have to use lethal force.
Yeah. It escalates pretty quickly.
It
Yeah.
escalates. So just because you're armed or you have your firearm in your home, you might not have to pull that trigger,
Right.
Yeah.
right? There's another statistic that, again, this is a very muddled statistics because it depends on what the reporting agency is.
Mm.
FBI reported it somewhere around between 60 and 80,000 occurrences per year. NRA has listed it between 1 and 3 million. And there's a couple of other agencies that puts it around 500,000 to 1 million instances where citizens have used their firearms to prevent a crime. Right? So if it is as high as of what NRA reports, up to 3 million, we don't know what the crime is, right? It could have been somebody tried to steal my lawnmower,
Yeah.
right? Or was this a potential stop for a homicide, or was it preventing a potential rape,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you can't state for fact like, oh, like I would have died if I didn't do this. But the fact still remains is that hundreds and thousands of instances every year, legal gun owners in the United States prevent crime daily. And all you have to do is present that pistol. And I've seen it many, many times.
Sure.
But when you see the videos, it's very hard to determine what would have been the outcome if the person didn't pull the firearm.
Right.
That's right.
You can't, because I don't have a magic 8-ball or whatever.
Yeah.
A crystal ball.
A crystal ball. There we
Right.
go. Thank you.
No
so
magician hat.
Yeah, I mean, there's always variables, but obviously,
Right.
if you, as a criminal, put yourself and the other person or whoever else is around in that position, it's like, you're not getting candy from a baby.
Right.
You're pulling a firearm. You know that there is. I mean, you probably don't think anything. Maybe they're on drugs. God knows. But it's just, yeah, it's a risky situation no matter how
Yeah.
you slice it.
And for
That's
situational
right.
awareness purposes, you want to avoid that.
Mhm.
If somebody,
Exactly.
if somebody, I mean, I'm pretty quick. I'm not the best in the world. I'm not going to pretend that I'm that good. but I'm pretty quick in pulling my firearm from concealment,
Mhm.
right? But if a gun is pointed at me at the distance that you and I are sitting right now, that stays in my holster.
Mm.
I can't beat that time. He
Right.
can pull that trigger quicker than I can actually get my gun out of my holster.
Wow.
So at that point, if he's just after my money, I'll give it to him.
Right. Right. Because it's not worth it. Your life is more valuable.
Right.
Yeah.
I can
Absolutely.
replace a watch. I can replace my
Absolutely.
money.
Yes.
Right.
I can't replace myself.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm sure that there's other people who are far more trained than me that have better sort of defensive tactics training on disarmament and so forth than I do, that might argue differently. But again, these are also people that have trained for years and years.
Right.
Exactly.
And it's also when you're being presented. I've had guns pointed at me, and you're
Wow.
not as cocky when that gun is pointed straight at you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it affects you quite a bit, and it's almost like a deer caught in headlights.
Right.
You kind of freeze for a second.
Yeah.
And then I lost my moment of surprise, right?
Right.
Because I was at a point where, okay, good. It took me just a fraction of a second to realize what's going on,
Yeah.
and by the time I realized it, the sort of the element of surprise was done.
Right.
I didn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
And so, luckily enough, he didn't pull the trigger.
Good. Yes. Thank you for
Ooh, yeah.
surviving that one.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so that's the part where I wanted to focus on, and in my training and my background, because I always liked the proactive aspects,
Right.
like situational awareness. Because again,
Yeah.
as I said, look, yeah, I've done some stuff in my life, but there's people who are far better on force than I am, and I know what my limitations are.
Mhm.
But at the same time, like the situational awareness have helped me immensely. Again, I know for almost not, I can't say to a fact because again it's hypothetical, but based on my 20 years in security and doing the anti-terrorism stuff like that, all that kind of stuff that I've done is preventative and proactive. I don't know how many things I've been able to avoid with the preparation and the work that I've done.
Mm.
I would like to think that I've avoided quite a few.
Yeah.
I believe so.
But again, it's hypothetical because you can never know both sides.
That's true.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
I think it's like really interesting because people watch movies, they read books, they, see comic books and they think like, okay, a firearm, but it's like what you said, when that really is pointing at you, like, it's like, how do you handle that? You need to be trained. You need to know
yeah.
what you're doing. Like, this is real life and it's no joke.
Right.
Like, you have to be certified in knowing what you're doing with these firearms and knowing what to do in that type of situation. And even if you're in the environment of something occurring, like you have to know. So it's so important to understand and prevent these things from occurring by educating yourself appropriately. So
Yeah.
Right.
I love that you're speaking on this.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you again for,
You're welcome.
yeah. Well, the next question, which, with the recent events at the Clearwater Beach, it has obviously gotten
Mhm.
many people talking. And without focusing specifically on that, on a specific incident, what lessons can communities learn when unexpected situations occur?
Well, specifically to what occurred at Clearwater Beach, I found out, I don't know how accurate, but they were talking about it's being a TikTok trend,
Right.
right? Where people gather in large crowds, and it apparently escalated to a point where somebody pulled a firearm. Again, I don't have all the details on it. So young teenager gathering in a crowd. So if you are on the beach in this specific instance, right? So your situational awareness needs to be heightened in these areas. Like, okay, good. So if you're on the beach and all of a sudden a large group of young teenagers gather, that doesn't mean like, oh my God, there's going to be a shooting. Oh my God, there's going to be a problem. Again, that goes into that sort of fear things. Like then you're going to be on the lookout for like, oh my God, there's going to be a problem. Like it becomes sort of like a 2 plus 2 equals 2,
Mhm.
right? It doesn't. So, but it doesn't mean that you can't be aware of what's going on.
Mhm.
And there's a former Marine, like it passed away several years ago, but his name is Lieutenant John Dean Cooper. And he came up with something called Cooper's Code of Awareness. It wasn't a novel thing, like he didn't come up with it, but he came up with something called Cooper's Code of Awareness,
Yeah.
right? Which is color coded. So the color white is basically completely unaware,
Okay.
right? Like which you see most people today.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're on their phone, they have no idea what's going on
With
around
their
them.
headphones, can't hear anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
that's
and then
right.
then you have code yellow, which is relaxed but aware,
Mm-hmm.
right? Eyes are up. Like you don't do this and walking whatever. Like for instance, one of the things that I do, if I actually have to look at my phone, I'm out in public, I usually turn my back towards the wall, right? And I
Mm.
look at my phone. I don't look at my phone down here. I look at my phone up here,
Mm-hmm.
so my peripheral is out,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then of course you got code orange. This is something that has now happened and alerted you to something that goes on in the environment. Like
Mhm.
this could be, and I'm going to elaborate on this. This could be, for instance, a loud noise or somebody yelling or screaming. It should pique your interest a little bit.
Mhm.
Like if you have this large group of people and all of a sudden you start hearing curse words, you start hearing like I'm going to do this to you or threats,
Yeah.
Mhm.
that should pique your awareness to a point. Okay, I need to be aware and potentially move away from this,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then you got code red, which means that you're now faced with a problem that you have to react to,
Mhm.
right? Somebody grabs you,
Mhm.
that's code red. Now you have to do something, or somebody pulls a weapon or anything like that.
Someone is charging at you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Code
Now
red.
now you have to react to it. So
Mhm.
what I talk about a lot is like don't ever go from code white to code red.
Oh, wow.
Because if it goes from code white to code red, you have missed the steps that led you there. Sometimes those steps and indications are very slight, but they're still there, right? I tell people to practice situational awareness, do it when you're driving because you're encountering a lot of different skills, different mindsets, different moods, and all kinds of different things on the road. So if you actually look at cars, I can actually predict almost with 100% accuracy what a person's going to do before they do it.
Wow.
Because I've seen the patterns of like if you guys can do this. It's not rocket science. You can do this
Please,
yourself.
I
You
want
just
to learn how to
but
do this.
you can do this. But you have to realize when I was working security, when I was with my clients and so forth, I always pay attention to vehicles that are in front of us, to the side of us, behind us, to see if there's a pattern. Right? Is this vehicle following us?
Mhm.
Right? And if you're at night, I actually came to a point where I can recognize vehicles at night just by the taillights. I can go, okay, that's a Lincoln, that's a Ford, that's a BMW.
That's very impressive.
I
Wow.
appreciate that, but
Wow.
it's basically just, I mean, the same thing as you're studying for an exam. Like you just have to pay attention.
Mhm.
Like I'm not saying I was 100% right at all times, but I can go, okay, good, that's a German car.
Mhm.
Because if something happens, you wanna put those pieces together of information, right? That puts me always in code yellow. If I start seeing a car that's following me, I go to code orange right away.
Mhm.
Right now, I'm looking at what other pieces of information is this environment telling me,
Mhm.
right? And my personal opinion, and when it comes to situational awareness, is that you have to use your five senses and even your sixth sense. I'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
We all have it to greater or lesser degree, but a lot of people focus too much on sight,
Mm.
right? Sight is important.
Mhm.
Like you see something visually, okay, that is a problem.
Mhm.
But I would put more emphasis on sound
Sound.
Mhm.
because if you, for instance, I talk about Clearwater Beach,
Yeah.
you're laying on the beach, you're sunbathing or you're with your friends, right?
Right.
Yeah, with your
You're not
sunglasses.
right, and you're not necessarily looking at what's going on over there,
Right.
but you hear it. That
You
should
do.
pique your interest,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
You heard commotion. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when it comes to this, again, I wasn't there. I don't know all the details about it. And it's hard for me to say exactly what I would have done in that situation.
Right.
And who knows what I would have perceived if I would have been close enough.
Mhm.
Because, this was a shooting. Bullets travel far,
They do.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to shootings, when you hear gunfire, cover and concealment. Like, because cover is something that can protect you from bullets. That's something metal, thick concrete, fire hydrants, thick light poles, anything that bullets has a hard time going through, engine blocks, that's cover. Concealment is anything that conceals your presence, right? So that's sort of one of the first things that I would recommend somebody if they did not get the signals for that something's going on, and then all of a sudden gunfire breaks out.
Right.
Cover and concealment.
Right.
And the other part, again, this is hypothetical. I don't know exactly what the environment looked like, but it's wide open space. So there is not a lot of cover and concealment because it's on a beach,
Yeah.
right? You want to get away from where the problem is, of course. Or if you can, not in a straight line, like off axis, like a little bit diagonally.
Yeah.
Because if you look at a potential shooter, like likely also, I don't know if this was an active shooter event where they were just picking targets. We saw this unfortunately in Australia, right, not too long ago, where they targeted the Jewish community, right? They were just shooting anything that moves, right? So you want to make yourself a hard target.
Right.
If you go directly in a straight line away from the shooting, if you look at from a shooter's perspective, I only have to follow you up and down. But if you go away from me in a diagonal, now I actually have to do horizontally as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's harder for target acquisition.
All right.
Hopefully that it luckily here in Clearwater, it's not that of a frequent occurrence.
Right.
And no matter what the media tells you, it's not that frequent of occurrence.
Right. Right.
They just blow it up once it happens, which they should. I mean, at the same time, I mean, it's a horrific event.
Yeah.
But sound, like, really pay attention to what's going on in the universe. In the beginning, when you start doing these kind of drills to yourself, like for instance, when you're driving, like take a look at the car and like to go like, okay, red Hyundai, license plate FXE, Florida State, and then if don't too much information, right? But if you do those three things, now all of a sudden, I'm sure that you're going to remember if I ask in 20 minutes, what did I say? Red Hyundai FXE, Florida State. And if you have those kind of sort of like, pieces of information that you repeat out loud to yourself, now that you're going to remember these things when as you're driving, right? And you can even look in the rearview mirror and go, like, okay, good, there's a blue BMW behind me. And then you look in the rearview mirror next time, the BMW is gone. But then you see it shift lanes, right? So like you go, oh, now it's in the right lane. Now you're going to have that image of like, what are vehicles doing around you? It's going to enable you to actually maneuver in traffic much more efficiently. And then once you've actually sort of acquired a little bit of memorization, it becomes automatic.
Yeah.
I can't turn it off. Like,
Wow.
I can't turn it off.
Yeah.
But that is a wonderful ability and skill to have that you don't want to turn it off. Like, it's something that it's so important because there's this is probably going to be another subject and we'll probably leave it for another day for another segment, but the texting and driving, like not paying attention to your surroundings. And a lot of people now, they have like videos, they're watching like a movie while they're driving, or like they put it on their phone. So it's like that's so important to be aware of your environment, of other vehicles, of if they're turning, and that you can't turn it off. Like, I feel like we should all work towards that point, honestly.
I mean, it's one of those things that it can't hurt you.
No.
I mean, in the beginning, it takes a little bit of effort.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like if you're studying something in college or you're reading a book, like if it's something that you don't know, there's an effort that takes to learn the material. So it's the same thing here. It's going to take an effort to learn it. But it's not rocket science. It just takes a little bit of practice.
Yeah.
But the same thing, like I see this all the time. Like I look in the rear mirror and I see that the person behind me is on their phone, right? That puts me in code orange right away.
Right. You want to get away from that.
Right. So the likelihood of them missing traffic cues and potentially rear-ending me are greater, right? If I can, I'll change lanes. I'll get out of their way, right? So it's stuff like that. Or if you spot a car that all of a sudden, like, it's swerving a little bit, don't pass it.
Right.
Like, be aware that, okay, something's up. Maybe they're just reaching for something. It just could be as simple as that, or they're taking a bite of their sandwich. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But it could also be somebody who's intoxicated.
Right.
Like, don't pass them.
Yeah.
It's just these signals we're given every day, right? And I've said this in a seminar, and I said, look, you go into a grocery store, and all of a sudden you start hearing loud screams and yells. Don't go in.
Yeah. Right.
What's going on in there?
Yeah.
No.
Don't go in.
Yeah.
And then to go back to sort of the sixth sense. I mean,
Exactly.
you drive to a gas station late at night. You drive up there and something doesn't feel right.
Right.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Don't stop. Like I said, don't lead with your gut instinct,
Right.
but don't ignore it.
Yeah. Trust in yourself that you
Trust
do
in your
have
instinct.
some,
Even if you're wrong, right? So you're wrong.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
And I told my wife this, and I even tell my son this. It's like, look, if something feels off, keep going. Right now, my wife drives a Tesla. She doesn't go to gas stations anymore. But if something doesn't feel right, like just don't go in.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
You know, trust yourself.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. But it's what's important in that part is like, don't lead with it. Like, again, don't go into paranoia. Don't go into fear. Like, oh my God, something feels off.
Yeah. Just be aware. Be aware of your environment. Observe, be aware, do what you're doing while you're doing it. That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. Well, nice. So I'm going to go on to the next question. What are the top 3 safety habits every person should practice, at the beach, shopping, at an event, or just daily life?
Well, first, what I've just said, situational awareness. Like, be aware of your environment wherever you are, and that includes your home. Like, when you come home, like, don't assume that your home is in the exact same condition you left it. Right, and I'm just not talking about a bad guy hiding behind the couch waiting to jump out at you.
Sure.
What smells are there?
Yeah.
Like, are your lights flickering? Like, is there other out points in your home that you should be aware of? Like, be aware of your environment wherever you are. Right. As much as you can. Like, it's, again, like, I don't want to tell people like, oh my God, you have to always be like, like like the meerkat on the savannah steppe, like always looking for predators. That's not a way of life.
Right.
But be aware of your environment. So that's like number 1. Number 2, I would say, have good safety habits. Right. For instance, your doors at your house should be locked at all times. Right. I check my doors every time I pass them. Like, when I'm home walking around in my house, I come across an exterior door, I just check it. Just make sure it's locked. Because by the time, if you forget to lock your door, you only have to forget to lock it once.
Exactly. That's right. Just once.
Right. And one of the things that you need to safeguard are entry points into your home. And the doors are the last thing that I check before I go to bed. I'm the last person, like, that checks them. I make sure my daughter, my son, and my wife, they're already prepped. I check the doors. Yeah. Every day.
Yeah.
Right. That's number 2. But that also applies to, I mean, today's day and age, most cars lock themselves after you start driving and park. I say be aware of environments, like, for instance, when grocery stores and so forth, when you put things in the store. I mean, there's this one thing that there was a security professional. I actually know him. He's a great guy. He actually is really, really good at his job. But he gave this recommendation that you should never turn your back when putting groceries in your car. Have you tried putting groceries in a car with your face facing out and doing it sideways?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you do?
You're gonna have to put your back towards certain things in order to actually operate, right? And most people, like this guy, he's a big guy. He can handle himself really well. So even if you punched him in the back, like, he can take it. Most people aren't like that.
Right.
But you should be aware of, like, is there somebody lingering? Like, when you walk up to your car, like, I always come to my car in an angle. So if you come at an angle, you get 2 full sides.
Mm-hmm.
And if you step out here, now you're getting 3 full sides, right? So I'm not saying you should circle your car every time and suspect somebody laying in wait. Again, it becomes a little the paranoia aspect,
Yeah.
but just be aware.
Yeah.
Like, is there somebody standing around that shouldn't be?
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, yeah, don't turn your back towards them.
Right.
But that kind of falls back to the first point, which is just be aware.
Mm-hmm.
Be aware.
Yeah, and then the third, I would say what you kind of hinted on earlier, which is train.
Right.
Whatever aspect that is. I'm not just saying go out and do martial arts, but train.
Yeah.
I do this with my kids and my family. I do scenario drilling in my house.
Oh wow, that's really good. Scenario drilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I kind of specialized on that a little bit. And I do fire, medical, and criminal,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Fantastic.
because people have a tendency to forget as well the medical aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Get supplies for your home. I have 5 fire extinguishers in my house.
Mm-hmm.
5. They're strategically placed. My kids know where they are. My wife know where they are. Because the problem with fires is you don't know when they're gonna break out. You don't know where they're gonna break out, and you don't know where you're going to be when they break out.
Right.
So if I have one fire extinguisher in the master, and there's a fire between me and the fire extinguisher, like my house is tri-level, so I have fire extinguishers all over the place,
Yeah.
and I have 2 full med kits,
Mm.
one that's mobile and one that's stationary.
Right.
A lot of people don't have med kits either.
Yeah.
I was a paramedic trained back in Europe. My license expired, so I should be very careful calling myself that because it's not anymore.
Yeah.
But I know how to use quite a bit of the medical equipment,
Right.
right?
Well, obviously, if you're the only person there in a medical emergency and you have some awareness on what to do, help out, right? Like one time, there was a coworker who experienced his first seizure, and I happened to have experienced that, and then, I witnessed the first aid staff who were trained on how they handled that, and then there was another emergency with somebody else who fainted, but he was very dehydrated and he was shaking. I thought maybe he was having a seizure, but I just was aware enough and I knew enough to be able to keep him from harm's way while I got help, so that way you can help.
Yeah, I mean, you also
Right.
protect about the Good Samaritan Act, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which enables you, like, even if you're not trained, if you're trying to help, you can't be held liable for trying to help.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what that is. I mean, if you look at everything that I've gone through, all the training that I've had in my entire life for the past 30 years, my medical training I've used more than any other skill by far. I have
Right.
multiple heart attacks, a cardiac arrest, bone breaks, seizures. I've had cuts and burns. Like we're talking, like the list goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had a woman fell right in front of my car when I lived in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
She broke her elbow.
Yeah.
And I knew what to do, right?
Yeah.
And so it is very important training, and that could help you a lot because, as I said, like it could be simple. You can fall in the staircase. Like, what do you do if there's a bone break? Like, for instance, I'm curious when that seizure, what procedure did they do? What did
I honestly, I
you
just
remember?
observed certain, like they protected his head,
Oh, good.
because that's part of it. You have to let them write it out. At least that's what I was told, because
That's
since
correct.
they're uncontrollably shaking, they can harm themselves or bump into something. So you just try to let them write it out, while you get medical assistance.
Yeah.
But you protect their head from harm.
Yeah.
That's
Because have a tendency also to bang against hard floors.
Mhm.
That's correct. So usually, but I'll tell you this: that when I went through my initial medical training
Mhm.
back in '97, that training was that you were to hold a person down to prevent them from hurting themselves.
Mhm.
But the problem in that is that the convulsions of people having a seizure can be extremely powerful.
Mhm.
So if you hold them down, they can actually break bones. They can
Right.
actually really injure you because they had used much more force than they would if they would have been awake.
Right.
Yeah.
So as you said, you let them right out. You
Mhm.
basically try to push furniture out,
Mhm.
and then you try to like maybe put a sweater. I had when I was in college, as one of my friends who in my class just dropped and had a seizure.
Mhm.
First thing I did, I actually took my shirt off and put it underneath her head because it was
Right.
like, hard floors.
Right.
She was banging her head
Yeah.
on the floor.
Yeah.
And then I just pushed the tables, and everybody was freaking out, and I was the only one that did it.
Right.
Even the professor was like all freaking out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'd gone through that training only a few years prior.
Yeah.
But medical training, I highly suggest to go get trained. Take a CPR class, like a first aid CPR class,
Mm-hmm.
right? To understand, like, to practice, like what, like, a lot of people also ask, like, what is the difference between a heart attack and a cardiac arrest? Do you know?
No.
Okay.
I don't
know?
I don't know.
Right. So a lot of people don't know. And so if somebody has a heart attack, would you go get an AED?
I wouldn't know what to do. I would call 911.
A heart attack is a blocked artery.
Yeah.
Right? The heart's still going.
Okay.
So you do not want to put a defibrillator on that, because you can basically give them cardiac arrest. Like, you can kill them. So, but in cardiac arrest, it means that the heart stops. Okay, so it's usually not blocked artery; it's the electrical system of the heart that fails. Heart attack's a blocked artery. Cardiac arrest is usually electrical failure for the heart. There's some different variations to that, but it's important for people to understand the difference, because if you have somebody who's conscious, have chest pains and all the symptoms, okay, good. What do you do in that instance? But if you have somebody that just drops, that means that their heart has stopped.
Exactly.
Now all of a sudden, like, you have to get into CPR immediately.
Wow.
Right. So first aid train, I highly do recommend.
Yeah.
That so again, the situational awareness apart, locking doors and being aware, and then actually get trained and have equipment. Those are like, my list is pretty long.
Yeah.
But those are some of the ones that I would recommend for an everyday person.
Right.
Very important.
Yeah. I feel like it
Very,
should
very
be like
important.
part of the school curriculum.
Seriously.
Some schools do have it though.
Yeah.
My kids' school, they have it, and I was actually the one who did the standing operating procedure for that school,
Nice.
and I set up the fire drills and all that kind of stuff for them as well. So
Wow.
Amazing. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, on that note, the next question is, what do you think, or what should parents be teaching their children and teenagers about safety with regards to social media, peer pressure, and decision making?
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
Loaded.
Yeah.
That's
It
a very
really
loaded
is.
question.
We definitely will need to do another part.
Yeah.
But give us,
What's your instant,
give us a,
Yeah, so my daughter does not have social media. She's not on it. My son, he's a little bit older. He's about to be 18. Yes, he's on social media. But I talk to him often. And here's what I recommend parents. Make sure you create a safe environment. Like, I'm sorry, like, if you put this thing on parents, like they can't have social media whatsoever, right? What happens when a kid has taboo? They're gonna go out and do it anyway, right? So what I've told my son is just like, look, I want you to have an honest conversation with me. I'm not gonna get upset. Like, I want you to feel free that you can talk to me about anything.
Right.
Right? If you see something on social media that you think is correct, and you think your father is completely out on his limb and doesn't know what he's talking about, like, I want you to be able to come talk to me. So I think it's important to have an open conversation to a point where the kids feel like they are safe to talk to you about it.
Right.
I think that's the most important thing. And then when you're diving into this deeper trend and the cyberbullying, and the girls that are pretending to be interested and then shame them to sending photos of themselves and all that kind of stuff, right? My son was actually exposed to something like that. I mean, he knew, so he was like, he just tossed it away. But he came and talked to me right away, because he knows that he can come talk to me.
Right. You have that policy, that open door policy. Come talk to me, and that's so major, so important to do as a parent.
Yeah.
And also, like, when you have these trends on TikTok, to really have an open conversation with the kids, you're going like, it's kind of stupid. Like, some of these trends, which actually what led to this thing at Clearwater Beach, which is a horrific event.
Yeah.
So it again, just have an open conversation. And when it comes to social media now, because a lot of news things are on social media, and I mean, I'm sure you both know you can do a lot with editing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely,
Right? So
absolutely.
you can cut things together to tell a completely different story.
Right.
So I mean, one of my favorite quotes is Denzel. I don't know if he originated it, but I've heard him say it. It says, if you don't read the news, you're uninformed. If you read the news, you're misinformed.
Yeah.
So
Well, if it wasn't him, it's still an accurate statement.
Right.
Really, really,
So
yeah.
I love that quote because it's very true, and social media is no different,
Yeah.
right? But when it comes to social media, I'd rather be uninformed.
Yeah,
I
makes
hear
sense.
you. I hear you.
This is like really, really educational.
Yeah,
I,
there is an individual that you should actually talk to.
yeah,
I'll send her your name
please. Yeah.
after, because she specializes in specifically with social media and kids.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful because, Clearwater is a very family oriented, city. And I mean, we are also, everybody has a family.
Yeah.
If you were born, you have a family to some degree, or
Yeah.
your kids have friends. And, so it's just very important
Yeah.
for that type of education to happen,
Yeah.
because some people say, I didn't get a manual, on how to live life, but there are people that create manuals and have lived life and have some training, and they can help to prevent, bad situations.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely. The
yeah.
truth is that this is a subject that affects everyone because everyone is involved in this world. And this is something that everyone needs to be aware of and be educated on.
Yeah.
So we're very excited to speak with her
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
this.
I'll make sure to get her your contact.
Yeah, we would love that.
I've spoken to her many times because she's an expert on that. I'm not an expert on the social media aspect
Sure.
and stuff, but she is. She's brings out a lot of awareness. She's talks in schools
Nice.
and like what to look for, and like she's done years and years of in fact, I actually did a seminar at the school where her kids went, but
Oh,
more
good.
towards emergency preparedness and
Wow.
so forth. So.
Yeah,
but you've provided a lot of value.
Yeah.
With everything that you've
Yeah.
mentioned. It's
Yeah.
been very, very like
Well, I appreciate
educational
it.
in such a good, positive way.
Yeah, and that was our intention with this interview, because obviously I was impacted because I love Clearwater Beach. It's
Me too.
one of our favorite locations. We look
Yes.
forward to going there
We
all the
do.
time.
We were just
And
there.
yeah, we were just
We
there.
were just there.
So the fact that happened in my own backyard,
Yes.
was impactful,
Mhm.
and I was like, well, had I been there, would I have done the right steps? Would I have done the right actions? I don't know.
Right.
But now I feel
I
much
don't know
more
either.
informed, and I wanted to, give this information and this
Right.
education to the community, because part of our mission as Shared Office Space Hub is to have a safe space and
Right.
to also contribute to the growth of Clearwater.
Yeah.
So thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you're
And
welcome.
I do have one final question.
Sure. Go
All
ahead.
right. If every family, business owner, professional, or resident listening today could remember one lesson from your over 25 years of experience, what would that be?
Oh God, like I'm such a big advocate for situational awareness. Just that awareness of the Cooper Codes of awareness. I mean, you can Google this. I don't know, like you can Google this. Cooper's Code of Awareness.
Okay.
And there's different variations of it, but the color coded. Memorize them.
All right.
And then when you go through your daily life, go like, what state am I currently in? Right. So I do appreciate you guys putting me in this seat because I know exactly everything that goes on out there.
Mm-hmm.
Even though when I'm looking at you guys, I am fully aware of things that go out there.
Right.
Right. And if you when you go through your day and go like, well, wait a minute, like, oh, I totally lost track of time. Good, you were in code white.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you sometimes have you ever experienced it when you're driving and go like, well, wait a minute, what happened in the last 5 seconds?
Right.
Okay, good. Your awareness level just went down the toilet for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't mean that you have to be like again, like this meerkat analogy.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to be that the entire time, but be aware of your what's going on in your environment, and also if you hear something that pushes you to code orange. Let's say you're sitting at home, you're watching TV, and all of a sudden you hear a loud bang outside, and you kind of go like, oh, and you just go back to your TV.
Right.
It doesn't mean you have to rush out and see, but just what was that?
Yeah.
Like, could that bang, whatever, was it a car backfire, or is it something that should bring my attention, that I have to do something, or could something potentially impede into my environment?
Right.
That happened to me when I lived in LA. I was sitting in my bedroom in my apartment. All of a sudden, I heard a loud crash, and I go like, okay, that was a car crash. So I walked out, and the woman just had driven straight into a parked car, and she was hurt. So I walked out and I assisted her
Right.
until paramedics came, and then,
Yeah.
I mean, her life was not in danger, but she busted her head open because she hit the steering wheel.
Oh.
But again, like, I could have easily just stayed in my apartment,
Right.
not reacted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that awareness is the one thing, and that includes, like, lock your doors when you're home, right? And put attention to what I mentioned earlier, some of the equipment. But I would probably, without drawing the answer too much, the awareness is
Yeah.
just be aware of your
Cooper's
environment.
code.
Yeah, Cooper's
Yeah.
code of
We'll
awareness.
Google Cooper's code and
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know
Memorize
what my
that.
homework is. I
Yeah.
know what
Do
my
you know your
is.
homework? Google Cooper's code, okay? Yeah.
But this, as I
Thanks.
said, there's different variations of them, but they're the 4 colors, and there's a couple of more colors to it. Like there's a code black, which, don't bother with that. You don't
Okay.
need it. But the four color codes.
Yeah.
We'll
And
include the link of the color code, the Cooper color code that you're talking of.
yes,
Nice.
that's,
The one you want us to become familiar
Yeah.
with.
that can help you a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's already helping me.
Yeah.
Tons. I'm sure everyone that's watching this is helping them.
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope so.
I hope so
Sure,
too. I
I'm
mean,
sure.
you guys let us know. Make comments, give us any feedback, send emails, call us, give us your feedback. We want to continue important conversations here and, make it an open space for professionals and everybody to thrive.
That's
And if
right.
they have specific questions, they can probably comment as well, and then hopefully get that question to me. I'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you again, Henrik,
You're
so much for
Thank
being here and
you.
sharing your experience, your wisdom, and your time is very
You're welcome.
valuable. So thank you.
Very
Yeah,
welcome.
It's truly been an honor to have you in this space. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
yeah.
Anytime.
We look forward to many more talks.
Looking
Yeah.
forward to as well.
Yeah, and then we did have a final statement, right? Which is, at Shared Office Space, we do believe in strong communities. We're Latinos, so we're Latino women. We have a lot of passion, a lot of community, a lot of love, and it's built through connection, through collaboration, and meaningful conversations like this one. So we're proud to be part of Clearwater's growth, and we're proud to provide a professional environment where entrepreneurs and professionals can have a safe place to work at, because you also don't want to have people that you don't know going to your home. Let's say you work at home, so now you have a separate space where they can work, and that's part of also our purpose, that you have a professional, safe environment to bring your clients and your business. So we're here to service Clearwater, and anybody who wants to join us, and our doors are open and you're welcome to come. Our website is 912drewsos.com, and we look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.